There are 8 standards of approval, and you've addressed most of them here, but I guess you're aware of those. We do go through them on a point-by-point basis and reiterate the points you've already made, or I guess deal with them if you can.
Okay, it's gonna have to be big like that, sorry. Okay. I laugh every time I see 1, 2, 3, 4 because that's my daughter's favorite thing to see on clocks anywhere you go, anything. So subdivision approval has, as Chairman Peterson mentioned, 8 conditions of approval. So condition 1 is infrastructure can be constructed to function in a manner that promotes public health, safety, and welfare. So we're addressing the condition for more than 25 lots requires 2 points of access. We have that through Maple Secretariat. Safety, I mean, this is a typical residential development with large lots in the city of Hayden. We're not creating any sort of hazards, trip hazards, any sort of concerns for landowners. It's a typical residential development on a piece of property in accordance with city standards.
Okay, so what you're proposing, I guess, is there any instance that you're aware of that it doesn't meet a city, state, or other standard?
Muted.
No, everything is, to my knowledge, everything that we propose.
I was just gonna mute someone here. You can keep going.
Everything that I propose in a standard development as approved by the city of Hayden, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Routhram, in this particular area is, we've worked with the city staff to address all those concerns, or any concerns. There were no real concerns, it was just, we need that secondary point of access. We self-implemented the access being to Maple and to Secretariat. The city, again, just for the record, Rob Wright said, hey, I'm not telling you to build that access out to Maple. In the future, it'll be there. We said, hey, we don't want to build that Country Squire access because that introduces additional traffic and concerns for safety to the school. So let's get rid of that access. That right-of-way still maintains, they'll still have access to it. However, we're addressing that concern there, and we're addressing stormwater, water, sewer, best management practices. So in my opinion, in my experience, we exceed those requirements for the public health, safety, and welfare.
All right, thank you.
Any other additional questions? Okay, item number 2, infrastructure can be constructed and located in an orderly manner that accommodates ongoing maintenance needs when taking into consideration co-location of other infrastructure. So we're building a single phase development. All the infrastructure will be implemented at one time. As many people in this area have probably noticed lately, companies like TDS are coming in to implement new fiber in communities. I see it all the time throughout Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Hayden. They're extending their infrastructure. Ziply improving their infrastructure as well. So the only real infrastructure that I could see needing to be co-located in the future would be something like that. Another dry utility. We're providing the necessary easements behind the sidewalk to take care of that. We're also, the ongoing maintenance. I mean, one of the biggest issues with deep sewer is ongoing maintenance here. I think I was here one night when the Harb showed up and they had a rock the size of a basketball, and they said, the city council, they said, we pulled this out of a sewer main today. That happens. We don't know how it happens, but it happens. So we've designed this development in a way that the city can utilize their equipment they have to go in and clean those pipes and make the necessary, or take the necessary maintenance steps to make sure their system's functioning properly. We don't know when that future 18-inch main will be extended up to Hayden through the school property, but that'll take place sometime in accordance with the city's sewer master plan. So again, in my opinion, in my experience, the layout was set up. Again, it took several months, but we worked it out with the city so that they are content with the development layout for utilities for water, sewer, stormwater, and we're just taking that experience and education and applying it to this development, just like we've done in the past. So number 3, infrastructure is or will be in compliance with applicable city, state, and federal policies and regulations as follows. Provisions have been made for a water supply system that satisfies City Idaho Department of Environmental Quality and Northern Lakes Fire Protection District requirements. So, so this is Avondale Irrigation. They provided the will serve letter. They're ecstatic that we're looping this system. That's one of their big issues in the city. That district is expanding as well. They're building new tanks as the city further expands east and north, I guess to the west as well. And so we'll submit the plans to DEQ for review and approval. After we get approval from Avondale, which we have approval on the proposed layout right now, we're just going through those final steps as we get through the city, and then we'll have the final approvals. But DEQ will have, they'll issue basically an approval letter saying that we're in compliance. And again, fire protection, Northern Lakes has stated that we must provide adequate fire suppression. And so this 8-inch line at the minimum 60 pounds of pressure, the fire line will provide more than adequate fire suppression, while at the same time providing domestic and irrigation uses. Provisions have been made for a public sewage system in accordance with city and HARB's adopted sewer master plans as amended that satisfy HARB's and IDQ requirements. And the existing or proposed systems can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. So as part of this project, again, we are purchasing and we are willing to construct that 18-inch main through the proposed development, not through Finucane. We're connecting to the existing main in Finucane. So the upsize, the up line will be 18 inches and the downside line is 10 inches that'll outfall. And again, part of that master plan is a portion of that in Finucane will have to be replaced at some point in the future. But now, with that 18-inch line extending through our development, we could get away with an 8-inch line in the development. We could extend an 8-inch line, 12 foot deep, throughout our development, walk away, not required to put this 18-inch line. As we saw that need, we said, hey, let's implement this 18-inch line, save the folks in Finucane from having to tear up that entire street section, potentially hindering their landscaping and driveways and access. And as anybody in construction knows, 20-foot deep sewer doesn't go in a day, so it takes a long time. So we're trying to work with the city, and again, we're not asking for refunds or reimbursements, from the city. We're just saying, hey, look, in fact, my clients have already purchased the pipe in hopes of getting it approved and constructed. There's a national shortage right now on pipe, and so we, several weeks ago, purchased that pipe and said, hey, look, we want to get that out there. We want the city to know that we're excited to get this in. This is a need for the city. And we're hoping to get approval so we can have that in before school starts, again, to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Provisions have been made for snow storage that satisfy the City Public Works Department as the design relates to snow storage and removal practices. If snow storage is proposed to be co-located with stormwater, it shall be in a roadside swale areas, non-regional detention basins unless approved administratively by the city engineer, who shall determine that likelihood of flooding is minimal. So if we go back up to here, so as I stated before, we have stormwater swales that are located adjacent to the back of sidewalk, and along all the sidewalks in the city, between the curb and the sidewalk, there's a 5-foot planter, so for the snow to be bermed up on the side of the road. Historically, that's the best route for cities, crews. On cul-de-sac streets here, at this dead-end lot, typically we would shorten this cul-de-sac up and provide larger lots at the end of a cul-de-sac. However, in the city of Hayden, you're required to have a snow storage area at the end of your cul-de-sac. I agree with that. I grew up on a cul-de-sac, the best time of my life. They had a big cul-de-sac, pile of snow in the middle. Here, the cul-de-sacs are reduced in size, fire approved. And so that isn't really adequate, not probably the best use. So the city has implemented these snow storage areas for snow to be pushed. They're paved areas that drain to swales, and they're taken care of, and they get that snow out of the road and give the city somewhere to put that snow temporarily. So, and I say temporarily, it's gonna melt. And again, on Knuckles here, it's typical streets push through. Yeah, so we've, again, worked with the city on the layout, street sections, and we meet those requirements for snow storage. And I think the staff report identifies that as well. So 3D, provisions have been made for stormwater systems that satisfy the city and DEQ requirements. Again, I went over the stormwater swales and how that will work. Water will be conveyed in the gutters. We will have rolled curb in this development, so driveway locations will be selected for the homes, et cetera. You're not, you've seen curb cuts that are being pulled out and removed if somebody wanted to flop their lot. Stormwater is in this area required to be treated before it infiltrates in the ground. Overflow storage can be routed to dry wells. So each well will be implemented with a stormwater concrete dry well with a graded ring that'll allow stormwater to enter in the event of an overflow. Larger events that have been designed in the calculations. Item E, 3E, provisions have been made for streets that are consistent with the adopted transportation plan as amended, and the transportation element for the adopted comprehensive plan as amended that satisfies the city, ITD, adjacent jurisdictions, and local highway districts. Where the cul-de-sacs are proposed, they will be required to be approved administratively by the city engineer, who shall determine that there are limited portions of development in which street continuity is not feasible due to property configurations and or that are needed to address site-specific conditions. If we go back to here, again, you can't, maybe we can see if we go more. So to the south of the development outlined in yellow, we have a loop street. It's a great idea, great concept, great neighborhood, kids can play. With this development here and the location of that loop street, there's not an option to provide a north-south street here. So there's also not an option to provide a north-south street here, which long-term is better for the city, and at the same time provide another connection so close. It doesn't help fire, it doesn't help emergency services. And so we terminated this piece in a cul-de-sac as shown here. That was approved by the city. Again, a great neighborhood. I'm biased again growing up with that cul-de-sac. Provisions have been made for parks and open space that are consistent with the adopted Parks Master Plan as amended and that satisfies the city requirements. So a small 16-acre development, it doesn't have the ability to dedicate park land or open space. It's a maintenance nightmare for the city. The pocket parks, it's a proven nightmare. It's nice, but the use of those pocket parks usually becomes, kids are over playing with matches or it's an unusable area that really doesn't benefit anybody long term. Trust me, I've been there. So we're with the impact fees, with development impact fees coming into place, and those park fees or those park open space areas are offset by the impact fees that are taking place. So each lot has an impact fee that's paid to the city, and the city uses that money to develop larger master plans, larger parks as part of their park plan. And I think anybody has the right to ask the city about that with this project, speak to the Parks Department and find out if they have any concerns. So, number 4, provisions have been made for erosion controls, geohazard stabilization, both during construction and as needed for permanent controls. Again, we went over the temporary erosion control plan that'll be a part of the submittal for the construction plans. The permanent plan would be for every lot to be irrigated and developed with landscaping. And that planter strip, if anybody has any concerns, that planter strip will be lined with street trees per landscape plan that'll be submitted. I believe the city looked at a preliminary landscape plan. There's also some additional landscaping requirements that we've talked to the city about. We're working through that. Just some of the adjacent zonings, rights of way. So the permanent controls, again, irrigated lawns, concrete gravel driveways, asphalt driveways, Those will be the permanent controls for dust, wind erosion. And then you're dealing with, stormwater runoff will be collected into the, stormwater swales, which are graded low points throughout the development. Provisions have been made for gas, power, telecommunications, mailboxes, and similar infrastructure. So, again, dry utilities, we call gas, power, phone, internet. Those are located in the 10-foot utility easement that's behind the sidewalk, constructed at the time of development, the crossings and the roads. The conduits are in place, and tested and approved by those, purveyors, so that, you know, improvements can be made, or maintenance can take place, or lines can be swapped or upgraded. The mailboxes are approved by USPS, and those guys are busy, and trying to get a hold of them is always fun. So we start now, in this preliminary design phase, and we say, we want a mailbox cluster here, a mailbox cluster here, and so on. We get that approval and we submit it with our construction plans. Provisions have been made for driveway locations to take into consideration the width, location of the driveway in relation to the location of snow storage, utility boxes, crosswalks, adjacent roads, mailboxes, and the like. So our development proposes a typical development. You want your dry utilities, your power, your water, everything on the garage side. So your meter is set in your garage and not set in the front of your house for everybody to drive by and see. So we set the development up where we master plan the driveway locations, the sizes, how that's going to look, and we take that into consideration. Anything from the back of the sidewalk in is addressed through stormwater management, and those areas are drained to the swales. Everything from the back of the sidewalk into the lot those are taken care of on the lot, internal lot drainage. So snow storage again is taking place in on the adjacent curb and the parking areas. Again, the streets are designed plenty wide, 37 feet from back of curb to back of curb. So that allows parking on both sides and 2 drive aisles down the middle. Slow, we're trying to reduce speeds, and those are traffic calming devices. You get much larger and we see racetracks and fast, and we have kids in the neighborhoods. That's what we really want to address. So mailboxes again are picked after the driveway locations are picked. We want to look for an area that's, you know, very uncommon, but it happens where you get, you know, 2 people, 3 people located at the mailbox trying to pick up their mail at the same time. A lot of people walk to the mailbox. Just with these clusters, it's hard to, you know, lean out your window and unlock the mailbox and get it. More of a walking thing, but located in an area that's strategic by street lighting and protected. So 7, the area proposed for subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, residential, check, and the use conforms to other requirements found in this code. So comprehensive plan is very specific, calls out this is a single family residential area, and the city, it's consistent with all the surrounding uses, the surrounding homes, lot sizes. So it's our opinion, and I believe staff's opinion, as stated in their staff report, that we meet and exceed those requirements. The developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs to provide services by paying fees, furnishing land, or providing other mitigation measures for off-site impacts to streets, parks, and other public facilities within the community. It is the expectation that in most cases, off-site improvements will be dealt with through the agreements. So we have already started that process. Again, we are acquiring the land the city needs for future Maple Street improvements. We are implementing the sanitary sewer, which is a betterment to the city's wastewater sanitary sewer collection system. And we're paying impact fees, so we'll offset emergency services, parks, and I believe we've addressed all of those. My clients are, you know, this isn't their first rodeo. They know what they're gonna be up against, and that's all taken into consideration when we get into the development, because we start looking at things and they remind me, oh no, I've gotta take care of this. I've gotta pay this impact fee at the time of this. And we work that out with the city before we even bring the project forth, because it's not necessary for me to stand up here unless we have a project that's sound and meets all the city requirements. So